Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm really glad you're here. Today, we're going to look at 5 of the most terrible downfalls during the rule of King Henry VIII. These were people who were once close to him, wives, friends, and trusted advisors, but ended up losing everything, even their lives. We'll also explore one important question. Did Henry ever feel sorry for what happened to them? Let's begin. Henry VIII ruled England from 1509 to 1547. He's famous for changing England's religion, marrying 6 times and creating the Church of England. But his rule was also filled with fear and violence. People around him were often in danger. If they made a mistake, or simply made him angry, they could be arrested, executed, or ruined. We're going to talk about 5 important people who faced this fate. Anne Boleyn, Thomas More, Thomas Cromwell, Cardinal Wolsey, and Margaret Pole. Let's start with Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was Henry's second wife. He broke from the Catholic Church to marry her, hoping she would give him a son. But in 1536, she was arrested and accused of treason, adultery, and even incest. Historians believe these charges were false. In The Lady in the Tower, Alison Weir explains that the trial had very little real evidence. It was most likely arranged to remove Anne quickly. She was executed by sword at the Tower of London. Just days later, Henry became engaged to Jane Seymour. In public, he showed no sadness. But Alison Weir, in Henry VIII, the King and His Court, writes that Henry became more bitter and suspicious after her death. He rarely mentioned Anne again. If he felt regret, he kept it hidden and blamed her instead of himself. Now let's talk about Thomas More. More was one of the smartest men in England. He was a writer, lawyer, and deeply religious. At first he was close to Henry and even served as Lord Chancellor, but when Henry made himself the head of the Church of England, More refused to accept it. He would not sign the oath that said Henry was the Church's leader. He was arrested and executed in 1535. In The Life of Thomas More, Peter Ackroyd writes that More stayed calm and peaceful even at the time of his death. Henry never said he was wrong to execute More, but some historians believe he may have felt uneasy about it later. Richard Marius, in Thomas More, says Henry probably saw More's silence as dangerous, but also respected him deep down. Next is Thomas Cromwell. Cromwell was one of Henry's most loyal and useful advisors. He helped Henry end his first marriage, close the monasteries, and control Parliament. But in 1540, Cromwell arranged a marriage between Henry and Anne of Cleves, a match that Henry disliked. His enemies at court used this mistake to turn the king against him. He was arrested without warning and executed. In Thomas Cromwell, A Life, Diarmaid MacCulloch writes that Cromwell's fall was quick and unfair. He had done much for the king, but none of it could save him. After Cromwell's death, Henry later said he regretted it. Chronicler Edward Hall wrote that Henry said Cromwell had been faithful and didn't deserve to die. Now let's go back to the beginning of Henry's reign and talk about Cardinal Wolsey. Wolsey was Henry's first chief advisor and very powerful. He helped with foreign policy, church matters, and law. But in the late 1520s, Henry asked him to get a divorce from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. When Wolsey failed to convince the Pope, he lost the king's favour. In 1529, Wolsey was removed from power. Later, he was arrested and told to return to London. He died on the way. In The King's Cardinal, Peter Gwyn explains that Wolsey had served Henry faithfully for many years. His fall was not because he betrayed the king, but because he couldn't give Henry what he wanted. David Starkey, in 6 Wives, suggests that Henry may have felt sadness about Wolsey's death, but never blamed himself. Finally, let's talk about Margaret Pole. Margaret was a noblewoman with royal blood. She was loyal to the Catholic faith and had strong family ties to the old royal family. In 1538, she was arrested and held in the Tower of London without trial. In 1541, she was executed at age 67. Her death was especially cruel. The executioner took many blows to kill her. Susan Higginbotham, in Margaret Pole, the Countess in the Tower, calls this one of the darkest moments of Henry's reign. Many people at court were shocked, but there is no record of Henry regretting her death. At that time, he was very suspicious and feared any threat to his rule. So, what can we say? Did Henry ever feel regret? Sometimes, like with Cromwell, there are signs he later admitted he had made a mistake. With Anne Boleyn and Thomas More, there may have been private feelings, but Henry never took public blame. In the cases of Wolsey and Margaret Pole, he moved on without any apology. Historian G.W. Bernard, in The King's Reformation, explains that Henry believed in his own rightness. He often blamed others for failures. If he felt regret, it was not the kind that brought mercy or change. It was quiet, and it came too late. Thank you for watching. If you want more videos about Tudor history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments which figure from Henry VIII's court you'd like to learn more about next.